News from Sicily in Italy, Niscemi, the town that is sliding into the abyss, we have to say, triggered again by Storm Harry that has brought so much rainwater to the town. But guys, we have to be clear about this. What's happening there right now, the situation is worsening and it's unstoppable. We're not dealing with something like, oh, that's a cliff, a little bit has fallen down. We're dealing with a rotational landslide, and that is really bad. Imagine we have roughly 3.7 miles around the town right now that is cracking. And when you see the aerial pictures, guys, don't be fooled. This is tall. We're talking about 100 feet that it goes directly down there, but that's not it. Roughly over 1,600 people have been evacuated so far. And the red zone right now is also over 3,000 people. But not only the homes that are right at the front of this thing are at risk because of this rotational landslide. It's tearing way more of the town already down with it than you might probably be aware. And eventually we might deal with the whole city down there in the slopes. So what is happening right now, we will hear a detailed analysis from local scientists. That is very, very interesting. So stay tuned with me. And if you can do me a favor, it doesn't cost you anything. Click an early like and a hype for my video. It helps my channel. So guys, let's dive into this because this is shocking. For me, this is the biggest natural disaster that we're dealing with since Blatten maybe. Really, I have to say that when it comes to being strange and mysterious in some way. What is a rotational landslide? I want you to have a look at the images that the professor here shows us. You can see it's like layers that are coming down from the slope, like formed like a spoon. And this is the biggest problem. How can we explain a rotational landslide? Imagine you're baking a cake and you have it on a plate. It's like a slice of cake sitting on a plate. And now imagine the plate is tilted a little bit. And then you soak the cake with water. So instead of the cake sliding straight down, a big chunk slowly rolls forward and down and then turning a little as it moves. And that rolling and sliding chunk is a rotational slide. We're dealing with soaked material here. The ground is soft underneath the town. Clay, that's what we're dealing with here, and sand. When that gets wet, and it got extraordinary soaked in a short period of time right now, it becomes slippery and weak. And then a curved crack forms underground. That's why I said the spoon shape. And then a huge block of land starts to move. That's why I said just not the front of the cliff is just breaking up. This goes further inside, inland, you'd say in town. And as this is moving, as this rotational landslide is moving, the front goes down. That's what we're seeing here with the homes. The back is dropping and it cracks. That's what we're already seeing if we go further into town. And then the whole thing rotates slightly backwards. And then you see suddenly the houses, they crack or they fall. The land behind the slide pulls apart, so to speak. Streets and houses are sinking, tilting, or splitting. That's what we see here. And even buildings, and that is the danger, guys. This is why, many people say, wow, the first row of houses, maybe the second row gone, problem solved. No. It's not like this. Even buildings right now that are far from the edge of this monstrosity there, they can be dragged in. So that's why there is this expression, the landslide is moving uphill. And I want to show you this image here. You can see Mount Etna, the volcano that thrones over everything. And you can see that landslide is visible from the sea. And again, don't be fooled by how it looks in perspective. we're talking about 100 feet or more in height of this thing. So why is this so dangerous? And it is, guys. It's often slow at first, so people ignore it, right? Oh yeah, there's a little bit, whatever, right? But then it keeps growing, and that's what it did. It keeps growing months, years, or decades. We're talking about a well-known problem here, and that's what's so shocking. But rain makes it worse every time. And what we had with Cyclone Harry, this was like hurricane style, a storm that was unprecedented in the amount of rainfall in that short period of time. And the problem is, once this thing starts, you can't really stop it. How do you want to stop it? Even slow it down? Almost impossible, right? So a rotational landslide is when a huge chunk of ground slowly rotates and slides downhill on a curved surface, pulling houses and roads apart as it moves. And I tell you guys, Niscemi was doomed from the start. It is hard to say that, but this is a true fact. Niscemi is built on a layer cake of bad materials. We have to say that. The top layer, it's like hard looking sandstone or cemented sand, something like this, seems stable, good for building. People built, right? Nice plateau area to build overlooking the sea. But the bottom layer, that is the problem. That is weak clay. And clay, and especially weak clay, is extremely unstable when it's wet. And we can really say this is what's happening there is like textbook rotational slide geology. Very, very dangerous. And that's the first thing you check, right? Even if you want to build a house on a hill. Gosh, guys, I can't tell you, not building houses, but doing other work, how many test holes I dug, checking the clay surface, looking at, how is it behaving with water, with rainfall. And if you want to do a big operation, you got to be even more careful and do a lot of test drilling, because once the clay moves, everything above it, and that's the thing, must move too. And it does, as we see right now. The water that we have seen here turns the ground into lubricant, but not on the top layer, further down. And that's why the red zone goes far beyond what we're seeing on the edges of that cliff, of that landslide there right now. Because clay behaves like this. When it's dry, it's stiff. Wet, loses strength rapidly. That's the problem. And southern Sicily especially has episodic heavy rainfall, has long wet periods, and it has poor natural drainage in clay. That's also a problem. So every major rain event reactivates this landslide. And this is a known problem. It was not just, oh, Harry happened and oopsie, what's happening to our town? They knew that this is there. That's why the geologist shows the yellow line, that's the 1997 landslide, shows the red line, shows what's happening there. This, guys, it's not an accident. What can we say? It's inevitable physics of nature. It is. And the danger was not only known, it was officially mapped. And the PAI hydrogenical risk plan that was made in 2006 already showed a large mapped landslides classified as high to very high risk. So you might ask, why did they not start to abandon the homes at the front line, right? I mean, good thing they have evacuated now. Nobody was injured. We're happy about that. But we have that landslide is mapped basically directly beneath existing neighborhoods. So that means the failure surface already existed. The slope was already moving. Only time and water were missing to turn this into an absolute catastrophe. So what they did is basically, we have to say, that's my explanation, wasn't ignorance, but it was calculated risk. Because if you built at the edge of guaranteed failure, this is what you get, right? This is a critical mistake, in my opinion. The roads, critical arteries, roads and buildings were built right on the scarp edge, right there. No buffer zone, no long-term retreat planning. It's not in place. So when we're dealing with rotational slides, the headscarp always migrates backwards into the town. The land loss moves uphill, so to speak, and that's bad, but foreseeable. So even safe houses where residents felt safe, they were never safe. They're not safe now. They were just, or they are right now, next in line. It's moving uphill. History has proven it in this area already, repeatedly. Landslide in 1997 mapped instability before and after, no structural solution possible at the scale, like at the town scale there. Rotational slide does not reset. It only pauses, it reactivates, it grows. So there is no real engineering fix, right? We've seen the images where the angel tries to hold it. These are AI created images that show how dramatic this is, or the arms that embrace the town. Well, we wish we could build this, but if anything underneath is wobbly, it slides down even underneath that. You can try to slow it, you can try to drain some water, you can try to delay damage, but the eventual outcome is inevitable. You cannot stop clay from creeping. You cannot anchor an entire town. Think a little bit of Santorini, right? That is a similar problem that they're building on the cliffs. It's not clay, it's volcanic rock. They're building on a crater rim. You cannot, and this is important, reverse a curved failure surface that is failing kilometers long, miles long. Once a town, and this is the hard truth for Niscemi in Sicily, once a town sits on a rotational slide, the end result is only a matter of when and not if. And that's what we're seeing right now. And the rainfall is happening again. There's more storms coming in. So I'm worried about that, right? In one blunt sentence, we can say Niscemi was doomed at the moment it was built on hard ground that was sitting on wet clay. The landslide was even already there when it was built. It just hadn't finished yet. So we can call this a geological trap. Niscemi was built and is built on a geological trap. The upper part of the town sits on cemented sands and sandstones, right? But they give false security, false sense of safety. Beneath is that dangerous weak layer of clay that absorbs all the water. And classic setup for this drama. And what is also always mind-boggling, although they had mapped the landslide, although it had already began, the top crag was guaranteed to migrate backwards. Every major rain event would push it a little further, and yet they continued to build anyways. That is why that has locked in the outcome even further. So Storm Harry did not create this landslide. It was a trigger for a renewal, right? It has dumped large amounts of rain in this short time and has saturated the clay layer and has removed the last little bit remaining shear strength that it had. So think of this, the gun was already loaded, so Harry pulled the trigger. This is what we can say. And let's make clear, without Harry, the failure would have happened a little later. With the storm, it happened now. There is no real solution. Retaining walls will not work, guys. For this large scale, doesn't work. Anchors can't reach stable ground, also doesn't work. Drainage only helps temporarily. Slide might then pause a little bit, but it will reactivate, expands upslope, and it will repeat. That's why right now, engineers are talking about a managed retreat, not fixing it. Not possible. Niscemi is a doomed town on top of a geological trap. So it wasn't just unlucky. It was built in the wrong place from the beginning. And the land, nature, is now taking it back. Now, which areas will fail next? This is very interesting. So the crown, we say this, is the main crack on top of the landslide. So in rotational slides, it always retreats backwards. That's what we said. So the buildings that are not damaged yet are still at risk. The distance from the edge does not guarantee you safety. That is very, very important. So streets that are closest to the existing scarp edge are next. They are next. There's also an extension that's going to happen northwards if you look at the map, an extension sideways. So the current movement that we're seeing, it's not just only backwards, it's also spreading laterally. So that happens when saturated clay finds like new weak zones and the slide widens to release that stress. So neighborhoods that are north of the original failing zone will begin cracking very soon, even if they are not directly above the old zone or the old slide. And the infrastructure goes first. That's an interesting part. So before the houses collapse, you will usually see cracks in the roads, broken water pipes, tilted retaining walls, uneven pavements. If you see that, you're like, wait a minute, what's happening, right? These are early warning signs, not cosmetic damage. This has to be clear. So this process that we're dealing with here now, unfortunately, does not end with one event. This can repeat for decades until everything is done. It's not a sudden disaster there in Niscemi. It is now, has been, slow, predictable, and permanent. Now it's accelerating. We can say that Storm Harry has forced the truth to the surface. Guys, I will be on the pulse of this for you. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you join us by subscribing and click the notification bell. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you want to fill me up, if you want to lubricate me with coffee, link is in the description here. And I put a lot of interesting stuff here in the end screen, so maybe I see you there in a second. Stay safe, be aware of your surroundings, watch nature a little bit more awake, so to speak, if you watch my channel, of course. See you. Bye-bye.